Okay, it is exactly 8:31 p.m. Central Standard Time, Tuesday, January the 26th, 2021, and welcome to week number 4, week 4 of Realities in Criminal Justice, and my name is Richard Wright, and I'm going to be here, well, for probably a little less than an hour, giving you details and information about the assignments and everything. I do want to let you know that starting Sunday, after midnight Sunday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, any assignments that you have not turned in from weeks 1, 2, or 3, this does not include discussion posts, will not be accepted. So you should be aware of that. And you want to make sure you get those in. Now, unless I have extenuating circumstances in which I don't recall any from anybody in this class, then you will lose your points. And so, yeah, so I had to clean that. There you go. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. I do want to tell you two things. Number one, your grades from week 3, normally I would have had them completed, week 2 would have had them completed by now, but I had a death in my family. I lost one of my sisters over the weekend, so it was pretty challenging for me to get things done, but I will try to catch up with this week. And then the other thing that I want to remind you of is it is very, very, very important for you to recognize that we're heading to the second half of the course now. So I'm going to share my screen. And you can see down here, so we are at week number 4. And so we have 2 more lectures, which you should be aware of. Next week there will really be 2 lectures, and we'll go over that again. The recording for week 4 will be here, and of course I'll send you the link. But by the time you hear this or see this, if you're not here, you will have it. Let's take a quick look at the course calendar again, as I do every week. Okay, so here we are here. Okay, today's the 26th. Your initial post is due tonight, and that's characteristics of accused criminals. Then your live lecture, your reading assignment, read Martha Stewart and Race and the Media and Crime. We're going to talk just a little bit about that. The reply post is due Saturday. Okay. And then on the 31st, your course project, your rough draft, writing interview reports, and then your written assignment, women committing white-collar crimes. And we're going to go over that in just a minute. And you'll see that next week, we have a lecture on the 2nd and the 5th. And the reason why we're having that lecture on the 2nd and the 5th is if you look at the calendar, that the following week, that following Tuesday, the course ends. So the course ends on the 9th. It does not end on the 10th or any time after that. It is the 9th. That is it. If you get it in at 12 o'clock, it's not going to count. So very, very, very important for you to be aware of that. All right. Unless I've made some arrangements, which I have, I think I have one student I talked to about that. But at any rate, it's very important for you to get all your assignments in by the 9th. Okay, we'll talk about that again next week. So I wanted to make sure that you saw that again. So let's go to the module, Media, Depiction of Culture and Economic Status. Here are your assignments. Women committing white-collar crimes, read the Martha Stewart case, and then write a 1 to 2 page paper, and it's going to be APA, by the way, which means a cover page, it means a reference page, it means citations in the body throughout the paper, a double space, Romans 12. So 1 to 2 page evaluating how Martha Stewart case broke the norm by publicizing a female defendant in an economic crime, and discuss the following 3 to 4 factors that made this newsworthy. One you should know right away is who it was. Secondly, explain the impact of gender in terms of news reporting. And then explain whether you think the gender emphasis is a legitimate factor in how the media reports it, and if not, why. And then here's your rubric. And it tells you right there what I told you. You get 40 points for identifying the 3 to 4 factors that made the case newsworthy. And do it in detail. Remember, explain the gender. And remember, 2 pages means 2 pages. Okay? It doesn't mean less than that. And then at least 1 page at the minimum. But remember, you run your papers through Grammarly, because I will do that to make sure. Okay, excuse me a minute. I gotta take a swig. Okay, sorry about that. Get my throat. So anyway, so you're going to satisfy those requirements: grammar, spelling, and all those things, and then the citations and references and all the APA requirements. Okay. And it has to be in a Word document. Remember that. I think you know that by now. And then your discussion post, of course, is due tonight. Your characteristics of accused criminals. Reflect on the synopsis of documentary Paradise Lost, which is in the module here. Consider characteristics of the 3 defendants and how they were presented by the media, and consider the community environment. And using the research you did for paper 3, module 3, that was last week, argue whether or not the 3 defendants should be were treated fairly. All right. Then your course project. So now you've come to the next to the last part of your course project. So you should have completed your in-person or virtual interviews, and you've summarized the information obtained in the interview in a 1 to 2 page Word document in which you summarize your interview. Make sure that you have citations in the body. You can have references at the end, but I will grade you primarily on citations, and there's a proper way to cite parties that you interview that you should be able to discover if you check APA. Remember, this is going to be separate reports for each party that you interview. So make it 2 separate reports. Don't merge the 2 together. Don't mix them up, because you'll lose points. And so you cover each of these 7 points, okay? And provide the information that's asked for: the name, background, address, and phone number of the organization, email address if available, the news or type of organization the news portal represents, how and why you chose this agency, and how the crime reporter works with the criminal justice system. Adjust details according to what assignment option you chose. In other words, the way that you chose to do it, live or either if you did it virtually. And then summary of information you gained, 3 or 4 direct quotes. Remember what happens there is you should have citations supporting that, and your personal reactions and thoughts about the whole interview experience. Remember the questions that you had. All right, you had a total of 10 questions. Okay. All right, and so then cover page and double space. All right, here's the rubric again. And here's what you need to do. Here's the information here, repeating what I just went over with you. All right, and make sure to get all your points there. And then a minimum of 1 to 2 pages. Make sure you've covered the proper amount of questions and answers, and make them detailed. Don't just little short answers. Remember, it's supposed to be open-ended questions. You learned that last week. Okay. All right, so then that's the course project, and that'll be due Sunday. And then your live classroom lecture, which is the phrase that I give you today. Okay. So let's look at the issues here. Women committing white-collar crimes is your written assignment, and then your discussion. And then we're going to talk about the media depiction in just a few minutes. And here are your assignments here. Okay. And then we'll talk about, I'm going to talk about the interviews a little bit more. So the question is, does it change the difference as to how reporting the media should be done? And it says, do stories about minorities committing crimes rate higher? Does the media report missing children, race, gender, demographics? And so look what it says, CNN's 2011 report. Black victims don't get the attention and the press because the police don't care. That's a community position. That's why it's in quotes. And then the report stated that children who are white get more media coverage than missing children who are black. And additionally, it's noted that the media pays more attention. So what this information is saying is that based upon race, the amount of media coverage may be what is involved. And so, and we remember we're talking about individuals who are missing or something happens to them. And then, you know, remember, people don't really use newspapers anymore. It says, and they don't use it a lot. They do watch news broadcasts. And so what the media does is, you got to remember, is that they are, and I know about it because I've worked in media for many years. They choose to produce stories that are sensational because it brings in more revenue as far as advertising is concerned. And so it says many stories that are in the news for long periods of time are based on public interest. So if it's a story that they think that would pique interest, then they would do so. And what causes that is high profile cases like the O.J. Simpson. And what made the Martha Stewart case popular with two things. Number one, it was a female involved. And then number two, well, actually, number one, it was Martha Stewart, who is a well-known public figure, and that when you read, you'll discover what she did wrong that had something to do with insider trading and things of that nature. And other high-profile cases, you can think of other high-profile cases that Casey Anthony was another one. She wasn't a noted public figure, but that was a female, and that was heavily involved. And so there have been studies done, such as the one included in here, Gender and Crimes, that deals with how crimes are reported based upon the gender of the party involved, such as the defendant or person charged with it. And then it points out that crimes that involve a lot of money or white-collar crimes are generally committed by males, white males at that, not females. So one of the white-collar crimes that you should be aware of is Enron. And another one is, what's his name? Madoff, Bernard Madoff, who had a Ponzi scheme. And so because these individuals are high up in corporate America, they hold COO, Chief Operating Officers, and other chief positions in companies, then you find that they are at the top of the chain in terms of white-collar crime. And females, as it says here, and African Americans are not involved in those positions, whereas corporate America is dominated pretty much by white males, and that's a fact. So there are some changes that have taken place, but it says due to this, white-collar crimes are committed by white males more even still than females. And so we come to the point that there are so many different schemes that the public loses money that are based on the higher powers. So then you come to people like Martha Stewart, who fits into the minority, but because she was Martha Stewart and a high-profile individual, head of her own company, which was a rarity in corporate America, then that's what makes this of notoriety as far as media coverage is concerned. So concluding this section, we deal with the fact that when the media reports on crimes that are constantly happening every day, like murders or shootings or stabbings, there is a lot of reporting, and a lot of minorities are involved and are stereotyped, because that's what they say minorities do when it comes to the way the media puts the stories out there. Very interesting, though, that as we think about the incident that happened here in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, the insurrection, there were a number of primarily Caucasians were involved in that. There were just a few, not even a handful of blacks that were involved. And the media covered that extensively. Why? Because number one, it was tied to the president, who had, echoed theories of, and still is, that the election that took place in November was stolen, and that various conspiracy theories. And so the media covered that extensively, and is still covering it even now, and dealing with individuals who were part and parcel of that event. So it's very newsworthy, very, very newsworthy. And so the media has to let the public know and to be aware of what is going on and with criminal activity, such as those individuals who desecrated some parts of the Capitol, attempted to stop a legal process in government, and even threatened to kill legislators and the vice president at that time, Mike Pence, because he wasn't doing what the president wanted him to do. So the media covered that, and you've seen videos and so forth. And so anyway, crimes such as one happening in a large city, and I'm reading this, involving white victims or juveniles, might be more newsworthy than other crimes. So the media makes a decision based on, as it says, cultural judgments such as involving race and gender, and what makes the news, the story newsworthy. For example, the story of what happened with, some people may know Joan Renee Ramsey, the little girl who was killed, and the suspicions that her parents had something to do with that. And that story is even still periodically popping up in the news today. But there are others who are minorities who have similar type situations that are not in the media as much, such as the disappearance of, we know locally here in Chicago, of 2 young black girls who just disappeared as well. So anyway, the media coverage of these types of crime is significant because it drives public policy decisions and influence public opinion. And it's a media bias. So the media controls the information that goes out, and so when information is taught in schools of journalism, the big story is the one that people recall, and not the little story. And so, as it says, the more unusual crime is statistically, the more newsworthy that story becomes. And then this tells you the source that it came from as well. So that's something to consider. So now I'm going to make sure, again, I double back and that you understand that the interview, conducted interviews, it says you've conducted and generated your interview questions. Your interview needs to be completed and submitted, and make sure that when you're doing your interview that you take detailed notes so that you can have information to submit in your rough draft, and then your final paper will be the last. If you do a very good job of your rough draft, when we get to your final paper, which will be coming up, then you will have an easier job. So it's suggested that you can audio record your interview, but that's with the permission of the person before you do so, before you do any recording. Sometimes people don't want you recording them, but they will, you take cogent notes and very detailed notes so that you have enough information to be able to cover the details that are necessary in your written assignments. I can tell you that from students from the past, one of the things that have caused low grades is that they didn't do open-ended questions from the week before. And I already explained during the previous lecture what an open-ended question is. And again, that's a question that suggests to the party that you're questioning to give information and details and not result in a yes or no answer, such as you don't ask a person, did you like your years or your experiences of working as a public information officer or either as a news reporter? And their answer would be yes or no, and then they might elaborate, but that's a danger because that suggests that you might instead characterize during the course of your experiences, what are the, and remember you had some questions were already given to you, but you might ask, you could have asked, what is it that you, or what was the most, what is the most important story that you did, or what is one of the stories that you covered that you remember? And then they could tell you what it is, and then you take notes on the things that they say, and then you know, those kinds of things. So the key thing is what you want to do is to get the person that you're interviewing to open up a narrative for you. And so what you're going to do is you're going to have the question there, and then you're going to have the answer for each of it. Remember, it should be 20 questions, 20 answers. That's why it says 1 to 2 pages. Most students who do this end up doing it in at least 2 pages, and sometimes I've had a few students who've done especially great jobs. They have done it in more than that, and it's okay. So you won't get penalized if you go beyond 2 pages. The key idea is to make sure that you capture the details and information that are adequate to address the questions that we gave you with details, and the questions that you provide that are open-ended, because all our questions are open-ended. And so if you've done the exact same thing and provided open-ended questions, then you will have satisfied the requirements of that. And so it is very important. Don't wait until Sunday to do that. You should have been working on it before. Of course, your questions should have been done already, but then you should have arranged a time already with the person to be able to do that and get that in. Remember, all of this is critical in terms of time. I stressed that during week 1, that students should be about the business of making sure that they got on it at the very beginning of the quarter, because I already know that sometimes there are delays, and you want to make sure that you stress to the person that it is very important, and let them know that it would probably take no more than about a half an hour of their time to get the information that you need. And most organizations are ready to help students when they understand that you're not going to monopolize their day and time. So it's very important. Well, I hope that you get the assignments completed accordingly, that you get those interviews done, and that you complete the assignments on time. And I want to make sure that you understand that, like I said, we are winding down. This is 4, and then, like I said, week 5 is next week. And then remember, week 6 is not a full week. week. Next week is really the last full week of classes, so you want to make sure that you did it. Please be sure to reach out to me, but don't, there are students sometimes who will send me messages, and I haven't seen any so far from this class. In previous classes, it says, oh, I couldn't get in touch with anybody. You're going to have a problem. You're going to have a big problem, and you need to make sure that you get those things done. Excuse me. Well, you know what to do, how to reach me. And so I'm going to say good night. But before I say good night, I'm going to give you a key phrase. This should be easy for you to remember. And that is very simply the name of someone, Martha Stewart. Spell it right. That's it, Martha Stewart. Submit that to me, and you'll get your points for that. So enjoy your week. Keep me in your prayers in my situation. Also, stay safe. Things are still pretty bad. Matter of fact, there are new strains of this COVID-19 that are out here. So take care of yourself, and I will see you next week. Good night.